So in the early hours of July 29, 2025, something unnerving broke the quiet of Old Highway 20 in Dyer County, Tennessee. A mid-size SUV crept through the neighborhood, stopped only momentarily, and then sped off down the highway. And then the cries of a baby sounded throughout the neighborhood. A 7-month-old baby girl, still strapped safely in her car seat, was simply left outside on a random front yard. There was no note, no indication of who this baby was. She was simply left there like a delivered package. The family who found her immediately called the police, and what started off as just a puzzling story of an abandoned baby would set off a chain of events that would leave the small community and eventually the entire nation in complete shock. My name is Monks, and this is Monks Intrigue, and I will be telling you any story that I find intriguing. And if you like the vibe, if you appreciate that this is not an AI person, because why choose this face if I could choose any face? If that is something that you appreciate, hey, hit that subscribe button. Hey, a simple like would suffice. The Dyer County Sheriff's Office, they put out an urgent call, for help from the public to identify this baby, including this Facebook post. As they talked to the neighbors, witnesses came forward that saw a man drop her off, and by 5:10 that evening, the baby girl had a name, and the police were very eager to speak to her parents, which they identified as Matthew Wilson and Adriana Williams. This is where the real horror surfaced. About 40 miles away from where the baby was actually dropped off, in a wooded area near Tiptonville in Lake County, police discovered the bodies of the baby's parents. But the gruesome scene, it doesn't end there. They would also find 38-year-old Courtney Rose, Adriana's mother, which makes her the baby's grandmother, and her 15-year-old son, Braden Williams, which makes him the uncle. And they were all found shot to death, execution style. And I just want to say that whoever did this, right, either doesn't know or really doesn't care, or really must have fucking forgot that this is Tennessee. This is the fuck around and find out state. They're itching to lethally inject any piece of shit murderers in this state, from what I gather. Tennessee, they just had an execution just 2 months from when I'm making this video right now, and it was some man named Chris Smith. No, it was Oscar Smith, and he was a man that murdered his wife and her 2 children. And they did it through lethal injection. The only reason Tennessee hasn't executed anybody in the past 5 years prior to Smith was because of a lawsuit from 9 death row prisoners, and one of them was Smith, right? And they were claiming that the state's lethal injection, their cocktail of death, it just wasn't strong enough, and that they would suffer if they were to be lethally injected. Well, the Tennessee governor, Lee, basically said, we'll take our chances, and executed Smith ASAP once that lawsuit was, I guess, completed. So whoever killed these 4 people, they should know where they are at. And so the manhunt began, and because of the magnitude of a quadruple homicide in this case and an abandoned baby, it felt like every law enforcement agency was involved. The Alphabet Boys were out in droves. You had the TBI, you had the FBI, you had the U.S. Marshals, and local law enforcement. And to boot, they threw in a $32K reward offered for any information leading to an arrest, of course. Let's just recap what they had so far at this point. Multiple witnesses seeing a white man abandon the baby. They had the vehicle description. They began looking into any, unsavory connections to the victims. And all the authorities would say for now is that they found forensic evidence at the murder scene as well as at the baby drop-off point. And they're keeping a lot of information close to the vest, and I'm pretty sure they'll use it in some tactical way, right? And from this, a picture started to form, and a main suspect came into their radar, and his name is Austin Drummond. And I'll tell you right now, his was a very eerie connection to the family. So, who is Austin Drummond? And really, does he want to be the Edward Norton in American History X? I mean, come on, guys. It's uncanny. It's from the articles that I read, they worded it this way, okay? That he had alleged ties to this prison and street gang called the Almighty Vice Lords. Now, the gang name might sound like something straight out of GTA or something, but I'm here to tell you, they are a legit gang that has deep roots in Tennessee. And one article even wrote that he is a self-proclaimed member of the Almighty Vice Lords. I don't know if they just don't want to tie him to this gang completely, but for a good portion of me writing this story, I actually thought he was just a wannabe. When you learn more about Austin Drummond, he is equally annoying as he is incredibly dangerous. As far back as when Austin Drummond was just 13 years old, he already was amassing his criminal record, right? Like kids would amass Pokemon cards or whatnot. So the Department of Correction reports that Drummond was caught shoplifting back in 2009. Drummond was kicked out of his high school, Northside High School, in 2011 after being arrested for attempted burglary. Now, the report also says that by 15, Drummond on several occasions was stealing money from his employer, which was the supermarket Kroger's. Well, this kid, he was just pulling money out of the registers up to the tune of about $300, they claimed. Like a lot of these stories, right? It's more than likely that home life for Drummond was bad because, well, let's just say that it was bad enough for a judge to place him into state care. And then in 2013, he really fucked up royally. At just 16 years old at this time, he held up a convenience store in Jackson, pointing the gun directly in the clerk's face and told him to empty the register. Well, that landed him a 13-year sentence for aggravated robbery. And guess what he came away with that day? Austin made off with $44. That's the kind of lick that you don't ever want your cellmate to find out about. So while he was locked up, he racked up 25 disciplinary charges for assault. He even had weapons in prison. He was doing his gang activities. And you know what? It started me thinking that he's not a wannabe, right? And that's when I dug deeper into it. And yes, he has not just gang ties, he's in a gang. Now, from these pictures from inside prison, he didn't appear to be having a hard time as well, right? Because the Vice Lords, they were also a prison gang. A lot of them were in there, and I'm pretty sure they were running a lot of things. And so Austin was part of that, but I'm going to tell you about another part of, I guess you could say, preferential treatment. What came his way from his own creation. We'll get to that. And so after 7 years in jail in 2020, he was up for parole because that's how our system do, right? So here's the audio from his actual parole hearing. And yeah, we're going to find out how much of a scumbag Austin is.
All right, looking at your disciplinary, your write-ups. I'm showing most recently, looks like you've got a couple of pending right now for drugs and a cell phone. Have those been to D-board yet?
No, those haven't been handled yet.
All right, and then we'll skip on to the ones that have. I'm showing May of this year a Class A for possession of a deadly weapon, Class A for assault with that weapon, also a Class B for refusing or altering a drug test. March of this year showing a Class A for security threat group activity, as well as a Class A for refusing to participate. Also have multiple others. Looks like you've had about 27 incidents in total. 7 of them Class A, 7 Class Bs. We've had threats, deadly weapons, violation of state law, drugs, and etc. Does that sound right?
Yes, sir.
Anything you want to say, any statements you want to make about your discipline?
Yes, sir. These past few months, the assault and the deadly weapon, it came after it was self-defense. I was almost beat to death.
Tell me about the aggravated robbery. What did you do to get this charge?
I robbed a gas station.
Were you armed?
Yes, sir.
What did you have?
It was a BB gun.
Was anyone injured?
No, sir.
How much money or what did you take?
It was like $40.
Why were you robbing a gas station?
Honestly, I was on Xanax that night. I don't even remember doing anything.
All right. Using any other drugs or alcohol around that time?
No, just Xanax, alcohol, and marijuana.
All right. And then you've got 13 counts of retaliation for past action. Tell me about this.
Yes, sir. After my trial, after I was convicted, I was on the phone with my dad, and I made a comment that I would be out soon, and that I had the jury's information.
So you made threats to go after them?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to recommend that you be declined.
So, as you have just heard, he admits to threatening jurors from his trial, getting their information in nefarious ways. So Austin Drummond definitely is a menace, right? A piece of shit that probably doesn't know how to learn. The district attorney advocated to keep him in jail, that he was a danger to society. And she was right on the money, wasn't she? And fortunately, the parole board, they also said, nah, you're staying put. And that was a smart call, right? But that's pretty much all they can do, because Austin would go on to serve the majority of his sentence. And in September of 2024, he's out. But not really. But okay, the confusion of any normal person at this point, okay? So it's time for him to get out. But before he gets out, I guess as he was leaving, he attempts to murder somebody. And so they have to throw him back in. But he does get out, okay? Confusing, right? That's because they allowed him to bond out, even after this attempted murder, which of course we'll never understand, right? People like us, we wonder how in the hell do you get bond for attempted murder? With a track record like his, he obviously hasn't learned shit. And now we get into the troubling waters that detectives started piecing together in relation to those 4 homicides, okay? So we actually have to go back to when Austin Drummond was behind bars. He starts to cozy up to one of the female corrections officers, and they started this fiery hot relationship, a plot straight out of a bad X-rated movie for sure. And the prison guard that he was having a relations with, her name is Caitlin Speed. Well, she gets caught fucking a prisoner. You know who that prisoner is by now, right? And it turns out that is a big no-no, and she is promptly fired. But this is a love story, right? So when Austin finally gets out on that bond, he quickly reunited with Caitlin on the outside. Both unemployed, both stupid as can be. Now, I read reports that she already had a 7 and a 10-year-old, which appear to be from different men, and you'll see why I say this. Because one of these men is far from excited that she is dating the likes of Drummond, because let's keep it real, who would want their baby mama to be dating a convict? And let's just read the colorful words of this concerned father. Caitlin Speed. Northwest called and told me about you fucking Austin Drummond in there while you was working, and that you was terminated. Then, the day he gets out, you move off with my daughter and not let her speak to me since she said he was mean to her. Enjoy y'all's time while you can. Better get all the tips you can from that scumbag. Maybe he'll take care of you while you in there since you took care of him. Dumbass. Does anybody need a translation for this? Because I kind of did at first. So he begins the letter with saying her name and then saying Northwest. I assume that's the prison. And this is where I think this is just one of her baby daddies, because he's only claiming one of the childs. Oh God. Only claiming the daughter, right? Not the other child. You better get all the tips. I assume that's penis talk. And he's alluding that she is going to jail right? And hopefully Austin will take care of her while she's in jail like she did for him, and then calls her a dumbass. Okay. Now, you kind of get the idea of the level of respect that this man has for, I don't know if it's his ex-wife or just an ex-partner that he had a baby with, but he really does believe she is stupid as all hell. You know that Caitlyn is showing Austin Drummond all this drama. I assume this is via Facebook or whatnot. And of course, you know, the man that Austin Drummond is, right? Mr. Think Ahead, not to be outdone by some other baby daddy. He immediately knocks up Caitlyn as well. And they lived happily ever after. Of course, not with a demon like Austin Drummond, of course. Now, finally, brace yourself, because here is the scary connection to this quadruple homicide in Lake County. Turns out that Caitlyn Speed is Courtney Rose's sister. Yes, the abandoned baby girl's grandmother that was shot to death, which makes Caitlyn the aunt of Adriana and Braden, and also the sister-in-law of the now also deceased Wilson. Now that's an extremely incriminating connection if you ask someone like me, and so frightening as well. And the million-dollar question is, why? Shocked family members would come out and say, as they always do, that Austin was nothing less than great to them. Like, he was part of the family. Always good to Caitlyn, from what they can tell. And yeah, that usually is the case when you interview family members that really don't know anything behind closed doors, right? I hear these killers were always so nice so many times. It really got me looking at nice people sideways in my own life, right? And the people that are mean to me, I go, whew, a sigh of relief that I actually know who they are. So now the whole country is on edge, especially the state of Tennessee. And law enforcement, they began looking, at phone records. They sifted through the countless interviews they did and surveillance footage. From this, they wound up arresting 3 people. They had a Tanaka Brown, they had a Javante Thomas, and a Dira Sanders. They had proof that these 3, in some ways or another, made contact with Drummond while he was on the run. And their exact motivations or relationships to Austin at the time, as I'm writing this, is still unclear. Maybe they're just his friends. But police believe they knew he was a wanted man when they were aiding him, helping him hide out after the murders. So their connection is all about what happened, after the fact, after the crime itself. And so the heat is definitely on at this point. And on August 3rd, right, a church security camera in Jackson catches this man here creeping around wearing camo. That's just not what you want to see in your surveillance camera, especially when you notice that he is holding a rifle in his hand as well. Then on August 5th, a man named Ricardo Contreras and his crew were painting a house. When they heard a sound, it made one of the workers look over. Could have been an animal, could have been a tree branch breaking. But then the man saw something that appeared to be camouflaged, but, unnatural. So he goes and tells Contreras. And here's how Contreras explains the situation.
And I saw someone moving in the middle of the wood, and he had a like a sweater with something on his head or something like that. But it was really hard to see if it was the person that was they looking for. But who else can be in the middle of the wood? So one of the guys told me, like, "Are you gonna call the police?" And I was like, "No, I'm not gonna call them. I don't want to get involved in that." And it was probably about 6 minutes that I was thinking, like, no, I need to call the police immediately. And one of the things that I did is call the police. And because we do a lot of work in this area, I know a lot of people. They are kind of like good customer to me. And after call the police, I called one of my customer who was in the other house and tell him to lock the doors and everything, because I told him like already call the police, and so you're gonna see a lot of them around your house. And he said like, okay. So in 15 minutes after that, he called me and tell me like they got it. Yeah.
So basically, within 10 minutes of Contreras calling the police about this suspicious activity, cops were already swarming the area. But Austin, he had already fled. Was this particular scene at least, but he didn't get very far before jumping over into somebody else's backyard and having this run-in with a terrified neighbor.
Drummond then went on the run, where a neighbor says he found him hiding in his pool house. He describes the moment he came face to face with Drummond.
He ran toward me at first, which really made me take off. And he had the gun, so I felt like I could get away from him if he didn't shoot. But I ran through the woods into the middle of Pleasant Plains and flagged someone down. And used their emergency phone and called 911 from there.
And so soon Austin was found hiding in a vacant pool house, and boom, he's in handcuffs. No shots fired, no one was hurt, and most importantly, this dangerous man was finally off the streets, and the people of the neighborhood could finally take a sigh of relief. And I'm sure the cops at this point are just dying to talk to Austin Drummond, dying to know why. Why wipe out an entire family, let alone your baby mama's entire family? Now, if this doesn't scream personal to you guys at this point, I don't know how to help you. How did they wrong you so badly, Austin, that they deserve to be executed like they were? What about that 15-year-old boy? Was it simply because he was there? Did he say something mean to you as well? 15-year-olds have been known to do stupid things. I mean, you were 15 once, Austin. You did a lot of stupid things. And you even robbed a convenience store for $44 and spent 10 years in jail. What did this 15-year-old do in comparison to how dumb you were? And I will say the only almost good thing I could say about Austin is that he didn't shoot the baby. Did he run out of bullets? Or did he just have, that little bit of sliver of humanity left to leave the 7-month-old alive? But then again, he took her with him. With the intentions to do what? We don't know. But if I had to guess, is most likely some sort of chip, right? To torture that family even more. Now, the cops, at this point, this case is still pretty fresh. They aren't spilling much. Probably because, hey, it's possible he might not be saying much except talking to a lawyer. But this is definitely a targeted attack. And need I remind us all again, Tennessee is a death penalty state. The laws of Tennessee were written for crimes just like this. So once convicted, goodbye, Austin. Good riddance. I mean, the prosecution has already said as much, but honestly, did they even need to say it? I'd be surprised if they didn't inject him with that controversial cocktail of death, right? And make it as weak as possible. The weaker, the better, in my opinion. And just to let you guys know, that baby's safe in protective custody, but she's an orphan now, left without her parents, her grandma, her uncle, people she will never know except through stories from her family. And hopefully this story of how they came to pass is told to her by a consoling voice and loving person when she's old enough and ready to hear it. And now we get to the part of the video where you can click off now. This is where we speculate on, why. The why of this case. Some, I guess, brain exercise for all of us armchair detectives, and if you wish to share your thoughts, I would love to hear it. We did this with countless cases now, and some of you guys really think outside of the box. So first, I'd like to double back and bring up that infuriating question again of how does a guy with a rap sheet as long as Austin Drummond ever get bonded out? Especially when there was just this fresh murder attempt. Gang ties, attempted murder. He threatened juries. How does a character like this even get out? Here's how stupid it sounds when we break it down into a simplistic form, okay? So a man spends a decade in prison, and he's not even close to a model prisoner, right? 25 violations while inside. And, finally he serves the majority of his sentence, and he tries to kill another prison member before he leaves, which gets him thrown back into jail, but he bonds out. And once he bonds out, he murders 4 people. Good work, justice system. The bonding out from attempted murder is the burning question that has social media and the headlines on fire, I guess you could say. I mean, do we need someone, smarter than us to enlighten us on why this makes sense? Why put this piece of shit back on the street? Then there's that other taboo thought in the back of all our heads. I mean, come on, guys. Just admit it. Caitlin Speed. Now, in my opinion, must have had something to do with this, right? I mean, Austin Drummond isn't going to just hate on this girl's family without, I guess, being gassed up. I mean, what did she tell him behind closed doors that just filled his already black heart with more vitriol, more hate? Hate that was targeted at her family. And I will say, probably her sister, right? Her niece, maybe, her nephew, or were these other 3 just collateral damage? But I think the person that would have got to Caitlin Speed the most might be Big Sis. And the collateral damage part, every time I think about it, that actually is arguably more terrifying, to be able to kill innocent people just because they are there. 2 generations wiped out, and the 3rd left orphaned. That is not something that is done on a whim, considering the major connections here, right? Caitlin obviously isn't showing much capacity for good judgment, not that we've heard of so far. What's the saying, guys, that women always say? A good man is hard to find. Well, that's 100% true when you're looking for someone in fucking prison. Convictmatch.com? Caitlin risked it all to have relations with the poor man's Ed Norton, and rightfully so, got fired immediately. And when her dream convict, right, when this guy got out of prison, even after much time to deliberate if this was a good idea to have a relationship with someone like this, and I will say, I bet you the people that cared about her, knowing that she's a dum-dum, dodo head, let's just say her big sister, right? Courtney Rose probably told her how stupid she would be to be with this man when he gets out. And I think that's when Caitlin said, hey, big sis, hold my beer, and promptly gets impregnated by said convict. Now, we know for sure that the father of Caitlin's kids was worried as hell about the environment his dumb ex, or his dumb ass ex, was placing his daughters in. So in my working theory, we have a lot of pushback for Austin Drummond to be part of Caitlin's life. It's in the realm of possibility that Caitlin and Austin got pregnant just to stick it to the naysayers. They look like the type, right? I'm sure they didn't think this through at all, because they would get even more pushback now that she was pregnant. Tell me if you guys feel the same way. But why do I get the idea that the word stupid is thrown around a lot in this family when it comes to Caitlin, right? By the people that know her best. And honestly, just look at these pictures of Austin, a man that needs to flex this much to show off how much candy he has in prison. Doesn't come off as a man that can handle much criticism, right? He literally is sitting inside prison in this picture because he robbed a Circle K for $44. Apparently, he's letting us know here that he's still robbing Circle K. If I was a prison guard and I saw Austin Drummond's stash, right here, I'd be thinking, hey man, who is this guy fucking? Is he fucking one of us to get some of these things? And I'd be right. What we have here is a thin-skinned, volatile man hooking up with the dumb one in a family, okay? I assume Caitlyn complains constantly about her family, and it riles up the volatile one, Austin Drummond. Being that he's thin-skinned, they're talking shit about him. He just doesn't seem like a guy who would take much to snap, right? And then the final straw is some sort of disrespect from one of the 4 victims. I'm betting it was Big Sister, Courtney, and that Austin just couldn't let what she said slide. You know, we can't understand the mind of a man that flexes Pop-Tarts and Mountain Dew, right? But I think we can grasp the need to be respected. I mean, this picture tells us a lot about a person, right? He wants validation. And he wasn't getting it from some vital members of Caitlyn's family, and he snapped. And here we are. Now, hey, just let me know what you think happened. And, you know, like I said before, I love reading and interacting with you guys. I really do. So leave me a comment. And in the back of my head, I do wish that one day, hey, we can actually solve a case together. I feel that would be awesome. We'd be doing our part, right? So anyways, now go protect the ones that you love. Hey, and don't forget to love the ones that protect you.